Thank you for joining me, Madam Speaker. And we're asking, do tariff increases aid or arrest the local poultry industry? And I want to come to one of our farmers, Clive. Well, this is the backdrop, right? So we get 61.5% of our imports from Brazil. We get another 12% from the EU and 16% from the US. In your experience, what has the impact of that been on someone like yourself?
Well, from my side, the impact has been quite devastating, to say the least. I'm coming from a place where last year, for instance, I was able to distribute, we have a hatchery in Lutrichat, Makadam. I was able to distribute about 40,000 day-old chicks a week during this time, winter. Now, coming to this year, I'm lucky if I'm moving about 6,000 day-old chicks a week. I know stories of many farms, a lot of my clients, because I wholesale, a lot of my clients who have gone out of the business purely because they feel there's no market. But there definitely is a market. It's just that imports have come in and taken a large share of our market.
Okay, but the reality is, Lionel, that we are not producing all the chicken that we need in South Africa, so we're going to have to get it from somewhere. And where we're getting it from is some of the territories I've just mentioned. It's market rationale.
Look, South Africa has the potential to produce the required number of chicken for local and for household consumption. There's no doubt about that. We need to understand that the competition that the local industry is facing comes from these imports and some of these products that are being dumped in South Africa. Imports and dumped chicken holds a severe danger not only for the chicken industry and for the South African economy, but also for households who suddenly have to choose a product that might come from 5 different countries. We don't even know where a particular piece of chicken comes from. When we read the wrapper, when we read the box, we can see that it comes from any of the 5 countries. We also do not even know what the nutritional value or the nutritional content of some of these chickens are, and we do have businesses that thrive on it by importing, like the ones that Unati mentioned. But again, as I must say, that these importers do not consume local grain. They do not have logistics on the road with their trucks. They do not have shopkeepers that where these chicken are being sold, and that is the issue for us.
All right, so Eustace, in an ideal scenario, we should be producing all the chicken that we need. We should even be exporting our chicken, and it should be available at an affordable price to everyone in the market. The reality is something very, very different. In line with Proudly South African, in kind of encouraging people to buy local, it's simply, we understand, out of reach of people who are most exposed financially.
Yeah, look, I think the biggest thing that we need to remember is that there's a campaign like ours has as its sole responsibility to educate those who buy, including consumers, on the wider economic benefits of buying local. And that includes safeguarding jobs in industries like this. This is a labor-intensive industry. If you think about the value chain.
What's the price parity between, locally produced and distributed chicken vis-a-vis those that are coming from outside territories?
Look, the one that comes into the country comes in at much lower prices, but that benefit is not necessarily passed on to the consumer, because when it ends up in retail spaces, the retailers will probably sell it at more or less the same price as what they would sell the locally made, locally produced chicken.
All right, but then let's just go to 2 extracts from Treasury's expert panel on increasing VAT report, and just 2 things that relate to your industry. So say, for example, we kept everything in South Africa and we protected the market. There's nothing, according to this report, to suggest that benefit would be passed on to consumers. In fact, that's exactly what the report says. There's no indication that market conduct would not recur. And we're talking about dominance in the market and price fixing would not recur were IQF parts 0 rated in South Africa. They also say, arguably, the increase in chicken imports explains the relatively low increases in prices in recent years, with chicken prices largely tracking the CPI, which is making the argument for bringing stuff in at lower tariffs.
That is wrong. I mean, that is why the Fair Play movement have always been proponents of including chicken on the VAT-free list. The reasons were that it would protect the local industry, it would make chicken cheaper for the local consumer, and there is no evidence. We don't even know what was it based on. We always had our problem with how the VAT panel got to their conclusions, because when we engaged with industry before it, they were committed to passing on the benefit to the consumers.
Bonatti, so Clive's in a similar situation, new emerging black farmers trying to make inroads in the industry to capitalize on that 30% deficit, or trying to really muscularize the role that farmers like yourselves can play. But it's telling a different story to you.
I think, firstly, there are 4 dimensions, Iman, that one should look when you grow in the economy. We're all black in this room, particular room. Are we going to glorify being slaves in terms of jobs, or are we going to look ourselves as entrepreneurs? As an entrepreneur, one, you should look at the socio-economic impact. You should look at how that product or that environment and your business will then impact the environment in terms of growing that business. Jobs is not number 3. But it's the growth of that turnover of that business. A tariff only benefits certain people, but the 4th person is the consumer, who is in the transformation bracket. Without transformation, who is the tariff benefiting?
All right, but quick one, on the consumer. I mean, I think it was Eustace that was saying, almost Franken chicken, I think, is what he was saying, is what we're getting and what you're supporting that we get from other territories. We don't exactly know where it's sourced, how they were, we don't know the lifestyle or the lifespan.
That's not true. We got trained 2 years ago by the US government. We've got training now coming up from the Brazilian government. Some governments have done well. Sometimes when you don't know, Doc talked about being an expert or improving our expertise. We're not good. And if we were so good, we just have to supply chicken around the countries that are enabling our environment. Our economy is run in the southern region by the economies that are around us. We're not even giving them chicken. So going to US, complaining about Brazil, going to the EU, you're going too far. How about growing your own expertise? And we are trained. Chicken will never leave the US without a label and without any analysis on the content that is.
So a lot of it is hysteria, I think is what she's saying. How do you push back on that, Ziyanda?
I don't know when last Unati actually looked at one of her imports and how it goes through the value chain, because perhaps we do need a lesson of that nature so that they can see that what was being said by Lionel is actually fact. There are those cases. However, what I would like to say is that, Unati, as you said, we are all black in this room. And we are all interested in creating a sustainable industry. However, there is no sustainability in me getting a license to import and selling it to somebody else and having that person do the dirty for me, essentially, because I don't learn the mechanics of the business and there's no value in it only benefiting me or 120 businesses. We're talking about 800 small commercial farmers. We're talking about those small commercial farmers giving employment to maybe 10 people within their farms. And the point that we're making is that, well and good, but that philosophy needs to be carried through with action. And that action is doing business in a sustainable nature. Yes, you saw the gap. I agree with you. See the gap. But if it only benefits a handful of people, then surely, one, it can't be sustained. Okay. Number two, it can't talk to your philosophies.
I've got to hold on that point. Clem, I'm really interested in hearing your perspective on that. I mean, you've shared your concerns about decimating the local poultry industry. If you're speaking to the powers that be, including the commission that will make this decision, and we're hearing somewhere upwards of 82% in terms of a tariff increase, what would you say to those who have the power to change the situation?
Well, I think that would be a great start. And I say that because, especially if we look from the perspective of jobs, I mean, as Dr. Ziyanda said, we have over 800,000 small-scale farmers.
By the way, does the South African Poultry Association, is it a bona fide of yours? I mean, do you have trust in the organization? Is it representing your perspective?
Well, I've just been in communication with SAPA very recently, South African Poultry Association very recently. And that was for me trying to find out exactly what's going in the industry. Why have I gone, my colleagues as well, why have we gone from such great numbers in the previous years to almost nothing? Why are so many farmers that I know going out of business?
Some would say it is, the monopolies, and some would say, well, that's who you represent, Ziyanda.
Sorry?
Some would say it is the monopolies.
Well, I'm not part of any monopoly.
No, I'm saying SAPA as an organization.
But what I wanted to say is that, if you recapture about 30 to 33% of the market share that you've lost there's about 30,000 jobs that will be created. There's about 200 farms that will come up as a result. So it's not really the monopolies. I'm not saying the monopolies do not exist.
So hold on, proudly South Africa is saying increase the tariffs.
Increase the tariffs so that we protect this local industry, so that these emerging farmers, there's 200 farms that can come up. People like him will then be able to recapture some of that market share that has been lost to imports.
But Iman,
A quick breath, okay. A quick breath from you, Azir, just quickly on SAPA, and then I want to come to you, Unathi.
SAPA went on a drive a few years ago to actually attract your small commercial farmers.
And have you been successful?
We have been successful. Obviously, it's not perfect, but we have definitely been successful.
Okay.
We had a number of...
Stand by.
All right.
Go ahead,
This is
Unathi.
an example. Sugar industry is going down right now as we speak. They're in distress. Why? Tariffs went up. There was no benefit to any of those farmers. There's 16,000 farming communities with at least 1 hectare that have now completely gone out of the sugar industry.
So the argument that they're making that it
tariff will
increases
not
jobs
help.
doesn't
we
hold.
won't go out of business, Iman, because of a high tariff. The consumer is going to pay us more for chicken. It's a deficit. It's a necessity. It has to go on that plate on Sunday. So that the tariff is high makes things expensive. It doesn't give him more business or gives him more clients or protect him from SAPA.
All right, I'll get some closing thoughts from my guests in just a second. Please keep those thoughts in mind. Don't lose them. Stay with us. This is Madam Speaker.